Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the taping class. You know, while we're doing this, everybody needs to know how to tape, the procedures for it, the repercussions that come with not taping. First thing that we're going to go over real quick, briefly, is why does a soldier need to be taped, or the situations that come about that says, okay, the soldier has to be taped, the requirements for that. So one of the requirements, obviously, after you get done doing a PT test, you have to be taped. It's recommended that you do it either 10 days prior or 10 days after the PT test. I don't know if anybody knows that, but that's the recommendation. You have until 30 days after the PT test to get it done. Okay, after that 30th day, you're going to have to do another PT test and or scratch the entire PT test because you didn't meet the requirements of tape. Another way that you could be taped is if the commander deems that you look unfit or don't present a military appearance that's professional as far as your weight standard, he could tape you on the spot. Okay? Who knew that? Okay, about half. A lot of the NCOs already knew that. That's good. All right, so be aware of that. The commander has the authorization to do that. Sergeant Heywood doesn't, but the commander does. From company commander to detachment commander to battalion to brigade, all the way up. So they have that authority to do that. Also, you have to be taped every 6 months, whether you've had a PT test or not. So if I do a taping 10 days prior, 6 months later, if you haven't did a PT test prior to that, you also have to be taped again. Okay, so every 6 months you also have to be taped. That's in the regulation. Every 6 months you have to be taped. That's why a lot of units do it in conjunction with the PT test to knock out two birds with one stone. So those are the situations. Then if you go to the NCOS school, a lot of NCOS schools require you to be taped no later than 30 days prior to departing to that school as part of the packet to get into the school. Okay. So now we've gone over that. Once you've determined that you have to be taped, the next step is to do the height weight screening. All right. So you have to use a calibrated weight scale, which is what we have there in the restroom. We're not going to go back there and do that. All it is making sure that somebody gets on the scale, and you have an NCO. Usually, if you have enough the numbers, you have an NCO on the weight scale and an NCO doing the height. All right. Then you have another NCO that's recording, and you have the NCOIC. So it's usually about four personnel, 4 NCOs, preferably NCOs, usually corporal and above, and then an NCOIC, Sergeant First Class Staff Sergeant, whoever it's supposed to be doing the height weight screening. And then at the height weight screening, you've got an Excel spreadsheet or some kind of tracking that you write down what the height weight was, and also you'll have an excerpt out of the AR 600-9 on the height weight table to make sure that they meet the standards. All right. Normally you want to put the individuals that don't normally get taped to the front of the line. That way it makes the process a little bit faster. All right. And then you do the ones that may need to get taped towards the end. That way you can put them aside, and they're going to go ahead and get taped. All right. So let's go ahead and go into the taping. That's the main the meat of it. So if my demonstrators will come on up. All right. Yeah. You just face the crowd. Sergeant Flores, you're going to be the taper. Sergeant Hickson-Ball, you're going to be the observer. And I'm acting as the NCOIC. So the first thing you're going to need to do, like I said, you're going to have an observer, somebody that's going to make sure that the tape is even. Then you're going to have the person that's actually taping, and then you'll have a recorder / the supervisor, which I'm acting as that. So the first thing you need to do is we'll go ahead and do the neck, and it doesn't matter whether you start with the neck or you start with the waist. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so we'll do the neck first. So with the neck, and you obviously if it's a two-sided tape with meters and inches, you need to make sure it's on the inches side, the bigger numbers. All right, it's going to go not directly on his Adam's apple, but usually just below it. All right, because you want the meat of the neck. You don't want to capture the shoulders. All right, you just want the meat of the neck, the largest portion of the neck. And what the observer is doing is making sure that this is straight and that it's placed where it's supposed to be placed. All right, so you get the measurement, you read the measurement off, the recorder will write it down. Once you've written it down, go ahead and take the tape off. And what you do at this point is you go ahead and do the waist. Okay. So hold his arms up like he is right now. You'll do it about, when you do this, obviously he's going to be in PTs, he's not going to have a shirt on, but for obvious reasons we can't do that. You go ahead and tape around the waist, and that's the biggest part of the waist is where you're taping, and you're making sure that it's even all the way around. It's usually going to divide the belly button, so that's where I call them love handles. That's usually where the largest portion of your waist is at, is right up here. All right, and then you're going to read that measurement off, making sure the tape's straight, making sure that it's snug. Not tight, not loose, but snug. All right, so there's no slack in there. All right, so you're going to do that 3 times. If it's the same exact measurement, or if it's within 1/4 of an inch on the neck and the waist, then you're good to go doing it just twice. But if it's more than 1/2 of an inch off, you got to do it 3 times, making sure that those measurements are within 1/4 of an inch of each other. All right, guys. I'll explain the female one later. All right, for the females, it's the same thing. You do the waist and you do the neck. The only other difference is you also do the hip portion. Okay, you tape around the hip, and what you do, because you can't have them take their PT trunks off, and they have their shirt on too, is that you're going to pull it until you compensate for the slack of the shorts. All right, so you got to pull it tight. A lot of people don't do that. You're supposed to do that. You just pull it a little bit tighter to compensate for the excess material, the shorts that they're currently wearing. All right, once you tape, if you designate somebody that it has failed their tape, and this is a tape that you use. You can't just use any old tape. You can't get like a big thick one out. Make sure that you order this, or you go to Clothing and Sales or somewhere that they have the authorized official tape. Okay. All right. Once you deem that person has not met the body composition standards, and you use the body composition worksheet to do those calculations, and there's instructions in the AR 600-9, which will guide you through that process and show you how to do the calculations, and it's pretty easy. All right. So once you do that, they've designated that they have not met the standard. There's some actions that has to be taken. You've got to bar the individual. You have to flag the individual, which means they can't get promoted. They can't go to any schools. The bar means you can't re-enlist as well. Okay, until you've met the standard and you come off of that. You have to lose 2% or